This boy is truly unlucky. After being single for many years, he just wanted a simple romance. Unexpectedly, he encountered a notorious fallen angel. To make matters worse, after the fallen angel played with his feelings, she even attempted to kill him. The story started a few days ago. The man, named Issei Hyodu, had just enrolled at an all-girls high school with two close friends. Their favorite pastime was peeping, but accidents happen. Their actions were soon discovered. Seeing this, one friend immediately left Issei to draw away attention. Afterwards, Issei complained that his friend was disloyal. At that time, Issei saw a red-haired woman in the old school building and was instantly captivated by her. This red-haired woman, Rias, was a well-known figure at the school. Since then, Issei lamented the unpredictability of life, still unable to shed his label as a single man. Shortly after, a beautiful junior approached Issei, unexpectedly wishing to date him. This immediately made him fall in love. However, this move caused a rift between him and his two friends, breaking their promise to remain single together. Soon on the weekend, Issei went on a date with the junior, Rainare. While waiting for Rainar, a woman handing out flyers gave Issei a strange poster, claiming it could fulfill any wish. Issei, uninterested, just put it in his pocket and continued on his date. They spent a wonderful day together, but at a park, Rainar said she had a surprise for Issei. Then suddenly stabbed him in the abdomen. Issei never expected to die over such a bizarre incident. As death neared, he didn't feel frightened. He just regretted never having touched breasts. He thought of Rias, and at that moment, the strange poster in his pocket suddenly revealed a summoning circle, summoning Rias herself. Seeing Issei about to die, and knowing his fate was death, Rias decided to make a pact with him instead. She then spread her demonic wings. When Issei woke up again, he was at home and thought it was all a dream. From that day, however, he noticed changes in his body. His vision was exceptionally clear at night, and he constantly felt a surge of power. Driven by curiosity, Issei returned to the park but was immediately targeted by another male fallen angel who stabbed him in the chest with a spear. Speechless, Issei wondered why he kept getting stabbed. Just as the fallen angel was about to kill him, a burst of red lightning struck, and Rias appeared again. Recognizing her red hair, the fallen angel realized Rias's identity, knew he was no match, and quickly fled. Rias assured Issei that she would not let him die. When Issei came to, he was back at home, thinking it was another nightmare, only to find Rias in his bed the next second. The power of the Red Dragon Emperor, one of the two heavenly dragons, resides in Issei, and comes with a bug skill that continuously enhances his strength. However, currently, he is just a loser, unable to defeat even a minor fallen angel or summon his own sacred gear. After Rias turned Issei into her demon servant, she made him her bodyguard, which caused dissatisfaction among her other admirers who were determined to beat him up. Before they could act, Issei's two close friends knocked him to the ground with a punch. In the afternoon, under Rias's guidance, Issei visited the Occult Research Club, where all members are Rias's servants. The club serves merely as a front for their base. Rias then explained everything to Issei. The one who attempted to assassinate him was a fallen angel, a divine angel corrupted by evil emotions and cast into the underworld. They manipulate humans to exterminate demons. Besides fallen angels, there are also angels acting on divine orders to eradicate demons, creating a three-way standoff. Rainare, the fallen angel, targeted Issei because of the dragon power within him, which posed a threat to them. Some sacred gears are so powerful they threaten the existence of demons and fallen angels. Rias instructed Issei to focus his will on his arm to summon the sacred gear residing within him. However, Issei's thoughts were filled with lewd fantasies about Rias, and ultimately, he achieved nothing. At night, Club President Rias assigned Issei his first task as a demon, distributing demon flyers. Normally, this task is delegated to familiars, but due to Issei's current weak abilities, he had to start from scratch. Rias encouraged Issei to work hard, explaining that as his power increased, he could rise to a higher-ranked demon and have his own servants. This thought sparked a wicked idea in Issei. However, his excitement was short-lived. Another fallen angel found Issei and, seeing that he was still alive, hurled a spear of light at him. Facing this threat to his life, Issei immediately concentrated all his power into his arm. A red gauntlet appeared on his hand, the sacred gear given by the Red Dragon Emperor within him. The light emitted by the sacred gear frightened the fallen angel away. Once activated, the sacred gear could be controlled at will, either to be engaged or disengaged. The next morning, on his way to school, Issei met a directionally challenged saint named Asia. Attracted by her appearance, Issei immediately offered to guide her to gain her favor. Asia was headed to a nearby church. However, as they approached the church, Issei, being a demon, felt discomfort, indicating that demons indeed cannot be near holy places. Upon learning this, Rias warned Issei never to go to a church, as merely stepping foot there could escalate into a conflict between gods and demons. Being near church personnel was akin to courting death, especially with exorcists who could wield sacred gears and whose exorcisms could completely obliterate demons, leaving no chance for resurrection or reincarnation. Heeding Rias's advice, Issei decided to avoid any further contact with Asia. However, fate had other plans. That night, while completing a task at a client's home, Issei entered to find the house splattered with blood and the client dead on the floor. At that moment, he noticed an exorcist sitting on the sofa, who greeted him cordially but was actually a deranged executioner. The exorcist stated that those who relied on demons were no longer human and had killed the client with 2 slashes. Now, he targeted Issei, charging at him and shooting him in the shin. Issei was quickly overpowered. Unexpectedly, Asia also arrived, and Issei was shocked to see that the kind-hearted Asia was the assistant of this twisted exorcist. Asia quickly shielded Issei, who had shown her kindness, from being executed. Seeing this, the exorcist became impatient. He pressed Asia against the wall, preparing to discipline her. Issei, furious at the sight, responded with his sacred gear. He struck the exorcist with a powerful punch, knocking him to the ground. However, this did not defeat the perverse exorcist. At a critical moment, a summoning circle appeared, and Rias's followers arrived. Rias's purpose was not to fight with the church. She only came to retrieve Issei. They then quickly escaped the area through Akeno's spatial jump. He is the Red Dragon Emperor, capable of destroying the heavens and earth, and possesses the power to slay gods. However, he is now ridiculed by his ex-girlfriend as a common loser. This is because Issei has only recently awakened to this power and is still unfamiliar with its origin. Issei feels guilty for not saving Asia from the exorcist's hands, blaming his own weakness. He wants to become stronger, so he goes to the park to exercise his body. Unexpectedly, he couldn't even do a single pull-up. At that moment, Asia also arrives at the park. Issei immediately takes her to a hamburger shop to apologize. For Issei, Asia has already become a friend, so he decides to spend a day touring the city with her. It turns out to be the most fun Asia has ever had. Issei was injured by an exorcist's holy water weapon in last night's battle, and the wound has not healed. Asia then uses the power of her relic to heal him, which makes Issei curious about her abilities. Asia shares her past with him. Asia was abandoned at a small church doorstep in Europe shortly after her birth and survived because she was found. At 8 years old, when a wounded puppy wandered into the church, Asia prayed hard for it, and a miracle occurred. She was soon taken to a major church that healed injured believers worldwide. Asia was happy her powers could help others. However, one day, Asia treated a wounded man who turned out to be a demon. Despite her kindness, she was condemned as a witch and a heretic, ultimately forcing her to seek refuge with fallen angels. Asia believes this is a trial from God. She thinks that overcoming this ordeal will make her dreams come true. Asia's dream is simple: to make many friends. Seeing Asia like this, Issei declares himself to be her first friend. However, peaceful moments are always brief. Issei's ex-girlfriend Reynard confronts them the next second. The fallen angel Reynard immediately impales Issei with a spear, mocking him as useless and his sacred gear as a common dragon hand. Seeing this, Asia quickly tends to Issei's wounds. Reynard's goal is to take Asia's healing powers for herself. She then launches another spear, blasting Issei away. Unable to bear seeing Issei die for her, Asia is ultimately taken away by Reynard. Senior Rias tells Issei that artifacts act on the strength of the host's thoughts. The stronger the thoughts, the more powerful the artifact becomes. Rias encourages Issei to rescue Asia and assigns her followers, Yuto and Koneko, to assist him. The trio immediately heads to the fallen angel's church. Koneko kicks down the church's main door, and they are confronted by a perverse exorcist. The arrogant exorcist decides to stop them alone. Clearly, he underestimates their strength. Yuto quickly reveals his artifact, the Sword of Darkness, which can absorb light. Meanwhile, Issei takes the opportunity to knock down the exorcist with a punch. Outnumbered, the exorcist throws a flash grenade and escapes. When Issei and the others reach the underground altar, they find Asia bound to a cross. Rainer forcibly extracts the artifact from Asia. Amid Asia's agonizing screams, the artifact is swiftly removed, and she shows signs of impending death. Watching a decisive protagonist in action is thrilling. When the fallen angel harmed his beloved, Issei immediately knocked her out with a fierce punch, terrifying her and mercilessly killing her so she couldn't resurrect. Originally, the fallen angel Reynard had schemed to steal the healing sacred gear from Asia, hoping to increase her power. Yuto and Koneko cleared the way for Issei, fighting the exorcists ahead. By the time Issei rescued Asia, it was almost too late, and she was close to death. Before leaving, Rainer mocked Issei as worthless, calling herself the true demon with a ruthless heart. Issei quickly took Asia from the underground, but soon after, she stopped breathing. Issei, in tears, cried out to the gods, only to be mocked again by Reynard. Meanwhile, Rias and Akeno hunted down the remaining fallen angels, quickly overwhelming them with their strength. On the other side, Issei felt helpless and furious over Asia's tragic death. Sacred gears are too holy for humans. Any mysterious power is feared and rejected. Reynard taunted Issei, saying he couldn't protect anyone, not then and not now. Issei summoned his sacred gear to attack Reynard, only to be met by her light spears, which pierced his legs. The power of a fallen angel continued to corrupt the demon's body through the wounds. Despite the pain, Issei struggled to stand, surprising even Reynard that he could still rise. Issei was in so much pain that he was nearly unconscious, but Reynard's actions filled him with immense anger, making him numb to the pain. His sacred gear responded to his plea and evolved, startling Reynard into panic. She fired her light spears at Issei again, but he easily blocked them with his dragon hand, causing her to panic even more. She tried to escape, but Issei struck her down the next second. At that moment, Yuto supported the exhausted Issei, while Rias, who had already dealt with the other fallen angels, arrived on the scene. She had been observing Issei's resolve and had not intervened until now. Koneko then dragged the defeated Reynard back in front of them. Reynard was terrified at the sight of Rias, known as the crimson-haired Ruin Princess. Rias had been aware of the fallen angels' schemes from the start, but had not acted as they hadn't directly affected her interests. However, now that Reynard had harmed one of her demons, Rias was ready to settle both old and new scores. Watching Issei's evolved arm armor, Rias explained to Reynare that his sacred gear was not just any ordinary one. It was said to double the wearer's power every 10 seconds, potentially surpassing demons and gods in the future. It is one of the 13 Longinus, the Red Dragon Emperor's arm. No matter how powerful, increasing strength takes time and is not omnipotent. Reynar's defeat was due to her underestimating her opponent. Just as Rias was about to finish off Reynar, Reynar surprisingly reverted to her human form and begged Issei for forgiveness. However, Issei did not hesitate and let Rias execute her with full force. Watching the feathers floating in the air, all memories of Reynar faded away. Issei returned the sacred gear to Asia, but she could not wake up again. Ultimately, Rias decided to take Asia as one of her own followers, turning her into a demon. Asia's healing powers could be of great assistance to Rias. Under Rias's contract, Asia was revived as a demon. Afterwards, following Asia's wishes, Rias arranged for her to stay at Issei's home. Issei's parents were happy, but knowing their son's lecherous nature, they were worried he might do something inappropriate with Asia at home. It took Rias's reassurance to finally convince Issei's parents to agree. After Rias made Asia her follower, she arranged for Asia to stay at Issei's home. To enhance Issei's strength, Rias scheduled morning workouts for him, considering that Issei was currently perceived as a loser without any masculine vigor. In the demon world, strength is paramount. For Issei's Red Dragon Emperor's arm, stronger physical fitness makes it more effective. However, Issei had no interest in training. His mind was preoccupied with the feel of Rias's behind. Subsequently, under Rias's arrangement, Asia started attending school and was even placed in the same class as Issei. Upon learning that Asia was living at Issei's home, he instantly became the target of envy from his classmates. At night, Issei went out on demon tasks again, but often encountered odd clients. This time, he met a perverted man who wanted to be transformed into a magical girl. After finally escaping this weirdo, another task followed quickly, this time with Rias accompanying him. Upon reaching the location, they only saw a suit of samurai armor. The next moment, a clear female voice came from the armor. It turned out the girl was an international student fascinated with Japanese culture and wore the armor at home because it made her feel safer. Her request for summoning a demon was merely to have Issei accompany her to retrieve her notebook from the school building because she was afraid of the dark at night, although her attire was arguably more frightening. After successfully completing the task, the girl made another request for Issei's help. She had developed feelings for a boy but was too shy to express her love. Issei suggested that if she was too nervous to meet him in person, she could express her feelings through a letter. After writing the letter, they tied it to an arrow and shot it towards the boy. They then camped out in the park to wait for his arrival. Soon, a boy with an arrow stuck in his head approached. Surprisingly, he was also quite unusual. And just like that, the boy and girl who liked armor fell in love. It was utterly absurd. Because the task was completed so thoroughly, Rias decided to reward Issei, and the reward was exactly what Issei had been longing for: Rias's breasts. Rias indicated that for the next 5 seconds, her breasts would belong only to Issei. However, Issei hesitated and did not take full advantage of the moment. Still, Rias compensated by giving him a hug. As is well known, the Red Dragon Emperor is a very powerful dragon. Although it currently resides within Issei, it has been unable to engage in soulful communication with him due to Issei's weak strength. The Red Dragon Emperor has long wanted to speak with Issei, but his voice could not reach him because of Issei's insufficient power. However, one night while Issei was asleep, the Red Dragon Emperor finally found an opportunity to appear in Issei's dream. Every demon has their own familiar, and tonight happens to be a full moon. So, Rias took Asia and Issei to the familiar forest to hunt for one. As soon as they arrived, a strange acting man greeted them. He was an expert in capturing familiars and offered to help them find the ones they wanted. Issei, of course, wanted a female familiar, so the man immediately took him to the home of the water sprite, Undine. Just from the name, Issei imagined her to be a beautiful and elegant sprite. However, contrary to his expectations, the water sprite turned out to be a brawny fighter who came there to bathe, prompting Issei to criticize the man's taste. Later, deep in the forest, they spotted a blue dragon, a rare fairy dragon youngling capable of using blue lightning. It was a rare species that needed to be captured soon, as it would be uncatchable once grown. Issei, possessing the power of the red dragon, thought the compatibility would be good. However, the blue dragon completely ignored Issei. At that moment, a bunch of slimes fell from the sky. These slimes were not only indecent, but also had the ability to corrode clothes. Hearing this, Issei immediately planned to make this slime his familiar, true to his lecherous nature. This disgusted the blue dragon, who then struck Issei on the head with lightning and gently perched on Asia's shoulder. The blue dragon only attacks those it sees as enemies and, being a male, dislikes other males. Fairy dragons open their hearts only to those with pure spirits and generally do not approach demons, likely because Asia was formerly a nun. After sending Issei and the others off, Rias was alone, deep in thought at the window. Suddenly, a strange magic circle appeared behind her. Meanwhile, Issei had returned home and was about to go to sleep when a red magic circle appeared before him. Rias then appeared in Issei's room, pinned him to the ground without a word, and asked him to take her virginity. Before Issei could react, Rias had already removed her clothes. She explained that she had thought it through, and this was the only way. She tried to proceed, but Issei, usually lecherous, now hesitated. At the same moment, another magic circle appeared, followed by a woman in a maid outfit. She was Graphia, a servant of Rias's brother. Graphia told Rias, who was to be the next head of the household, to behave more appropriately. She then dressed Rias, although she was surprised that Issei, chosen by the Red Dragon Emperor, was considered unworthy. Rias and Graphia then left, leaving Issei confused about what had happened. The next morning at school, Issei finally understood the reason for everything. A magic circle appeared, followed by a blonde man named Riser Phoenix, a pure-blooded high-class demon and the third son of the Phoenix family. He was also Rias's fiancé. Issei was disgusted that such a man was engaged to Rias. Rias, of course, did not agree with the engagement and had planned the previous night to disrupt it by having Issei take her chastity. However, Riser, carrying the honor of the Phoenix family, could not afford to disgrace them. The situation between the two quickly escalated and was on the verge of losing control. At that moment, Graphia suggested that they settle the marriage issue with a rating game. If Rias could win the game, she would not have to marry. Upon hearing this, Riser immediately summoned his servants, all of whom were beautiful girls. This made Issei enviously burst into tears. However, thinking of Riser touching Rias, Issei quickly unleashed his dragon arm, ready to beat Riser, but was unexpectedly knocked out with a single blow by one of Riser's servants. The difference in strength was clear. After teaching Issei a lesson, Riser and his servants promptly returned to the demon world. The next time they would meet would be at the match. The man focused all his attention on his arm and instantly released a powerful energy beam strong enough to blow away a mountain peak. This not only made his opponent feel threatened, but also impressed everyone present. However, just a week ago, he was a loser who could be knocked down with one hit. To improve Issei's strength and to beat that jerk Riser, Rias organized a week-long intensive training for the whole team. Issei's first lesson was with Yuto, who trained his reaction skills through swordplay, teaching him to adapt spontaneously during combat. However, Issei was subdued in less than 2 rounds. The second lesson was with Akeno, who taught Issei and Asia how to use magical power by focusing their minds to sense the fluctuations of magic. Asia quickly learned how to use magic, showing a natural talent for it. In contrast, Issei was much weaker. The source of magic power is imagination. The key is to visualize what one is thinking about. However, Issei's thoughts were all about breasts. Then Kaneko took the third lesson, teaching Issei through sparring how to aim for the central parts of the body. In the evening during the fourth lesson, Issei and Asia practiced controlling magic to prepare dinner. Asia easily heated cold water with magic, while Issei, still fixated on breasts, ended up peeling the skin off an onion in the next second. Could this be the power of the Breast Dragon Emperor? While having dinner with everyone, Issei couldn't help but think about his poor training performance earlier that day. Determined to defeat Riser and rescue Rias, he decided to train even harder in the future, planning to add extra sessions in the evenings on top of his current routine. Long ago, demons, fallen angels, and angels waged 3 great wars against each other, ending without victory or defeat as all combatants perished. Although demons live eternally, they have a very low birth rate, leading to a crisis for their race. After the wars, most pure-blooded demon families, known as the 72 Pillars, died out, leaving only a few like the Gremory, Citri, and Phoenix families. Due to the scarcity of demons, they began turning humans into minions. This led to the creation of the raiding games, which use minions to gain battle experience and display the strength of their masters. Nowadays, the outcomes of these games significantly affect a demon's rank and influence. Rias is particularly worried about this battle because her opponent, Phoenix, is known as the Immortal Phoenix, a mythical beast. Despite being a demon, Riser Phoenix possesses the same immortal properties as his namesake, making him virtually invincible as he can heal instantly from any injury. Riser's record stands at 8 wins and 2 losses, with the losses being strategic to benefit his family. Since the inception of the raiding games, the Phoenix family has rapidly expanded its influence, much like Nouveau Riche, because an immortal phoenix is unbeatable. Issei, aware of how crucial this fight is for Rias's future, trains exceptionally hard. The results of his efforts are evident as he can now enhance his dragon arm 12 times, something he couldn't have handled before. This improvement is fully displayed when Yuto spars with him again, and Issei concentrates his power in his left hand, striking a distant mountain peak and shattering it, an attack on par with a high-class demon. Issei's role is pivotal in this duel. His enhanced attack power will significantly influence the outcome. As their intense training concludes, the story approaches its climax. He is a pure pervert who can cause girls' clothes to burst open just by lightly touching them. Using this despicable method, the protagonist not only earned the disdain of his opponents, but also made his teammates feel degraded. After a week of intensive training, the final battle between Issei and Phoenix began. With the appearance of a magic circle, the group was instantly transported to an alternate space, a replica of the real world, but reconstructed by demons using magical power. As soon as they arrived, the battle was on the verge of erupting. For Riser, the drama would not end until he had crushed Rias's pride. Rias ordered Yuto and Koneko to set traps around the area, while Akeno was in charge of keeping watch. Rias had Issei and Asia stay close to her. Moreover, Rias rewarded Issei with the legendary lap pillow, which moved Issei to tears. However, Rias was actually trying to lift a curse she had previously placed on Issei. Rias had used 8 chess pieces to resurrect Issei, but his newly resurrected body could not yet handle the power. Therefore, Rias sealed his power in stages. This was also why she had Issei physically trained during their camp. In the end, Rias sternly warned Issei not to go easy on anyone, insisting that he must not hold back even if the opponent is a girl. Afterward, Issei immediately teamed up with Koneko, and the pair soon encountered 4 enemies in the gymnasium, consisting of 3 soldiers and 1 rook. Koneko, also being a rook, took on the enemy rook, while Issei faced the remaining 3 soldiers. Although the enemy rook's attacks were fierce and sharp, Koneko managed to dodge them with her agile movements. After a series of kicks, Koneko seized an opportunity to punch the enemy in the face. At the same time, Issei was being chased by an enemy wielding a chainsaw. However, Issei was ready to showcase his newly perfected special move. He lightly marked the enemies. And in the next second, all the girls' clothes were stripped off. After subduing the 4 in the gymnasium, Issei and Koneko quickly fled the scene as Akeno's lightning strike was imminent. The next second, Akeno blasted the entire gymnasium, eliminating the 4 enemies. Issei and Koneko then headed to assist Yuto in the distance. But unexpectedly, a bomb blast sent them flying. Koneko was regretfully knocked out of the competition by the blast. The attacker was the enemy's queen, Yubaluna. Seeing her teammate injured and out of the game, Akeno immediately arrived to take over the battlefield. Issei quickly met up with Yuto, and their next goal was to defeat the remaining chess pieces, excluding Riser. They first encountered an enemy knight. Yuto immediately engaged the knight. But his sword was no match for the enemy's flaming sword and was quickly broken. However, in the next second, Yuto created a second blade. It turns out Yuto's ability is to create magic swords. He can instantly create any type of magic sword. Meanwhile, Issei was surrounded by the remaining 5 enemies. Despite this, he did not lose his fighting spirit. Instead, his emotions surged. The Red Dragon Emperor responded to Issei's call, and his dragon arm transformed once again. The Red Dragon Emperor also bestowed upon Issei a new ability, Power Transfer. Issei immediately had Yuto cast his magic sword creation towards him. Then, Issei's dragon arm absorbed this power, and finally, it was enhanced and released through the hand of the Red Dragon Emperor. Instantly, a field of swords sprang from the ground, piercing all the enemies present. However, as Issei dealt with these 5 enemies, Akeno was also defeated by Yubaluna through a clever strategy. The man never imagined that despite risking his life to become stronger, he still couldn't protect the woman he loved. At a critical moment, everything fell apart. Watching Rias plead with a despicable man brought him only cold despair.
チェックメイトだ。
このゲームはライサー・フェニックス様の勝利です。
The stronger the enemy, the stronger the Red Dragon Emperor's arm becomes. As time passed, its power continued to double. Issei's strong desire to win for Rias gained the recognition and response of Drake, the Red Dragon Emperor. The dragon arm evolved by transforming and enhancing the power of Yuto's magic swords, allowing Issei to defeat the rest of Riser's pieces. However, Akeno and Yuto were defeated one by Yubaluna. Although Akeno initially dominated her, Yubaluna used a cheat item, Phaenix's Tears, which heals any injury instantly. This treasure of the Phaenix family is allowed in the raiding games, leading to Akeno's defeat. Seeing her queen and knight defeated, Rias engaged Riser with Bishop Asia by her side. Despite repeatedly attacking Riser with magic, his Phoenix immortality allowed him to heal rapidly from any damage, leaving Rias exhausted. Asia continuously used a sacred artifact to restore Rias's energy. With the situation looking grim, Issei stormed the enemy's headquarters and was promoted to the rank of queen. Determined to secure a victory for Rias, Issei then climbed to the top of the building. Upon seeing Issei arrive, Riser showed no panic, confident the scales of victory were already tipped in his favor. Asia quickly tended to Issei's wounds, but the next second, Yubaluna's magic blasted towards Asia. Issei had to use his body to shield her. Though Asia wasn't injured, the shock caused her to faint. Issei, not savvy enough to see through tricks or understand being trapped, knew he could still fight for Rias. Issei continued to double his strength through the Red Dragon Emperor arm and charged at Riser. However, he hadn't run far before losing all his strength and falling from the roof. The physical strain from the Red Dragon Emperor arm was incomparable to other artifacts. It was a miracle he could still fight after so many power enhancements. With his magic depleted and hit directly by Yubaluna, Issei's body had surpassed its limits. Rias's magic was also running low, making the outcome clear. Yet the next second, Issei stood up again, like an indomitable phoenix, which infuriated Riser. Riser then unleashed a series of blows on Issei's face, A mere minion demon daring to challenge a pure-blooded high-class demon, Riser decided to burn Issei to ashes, to a point beyond healing. To save Issei, Rias had no choice but to submit to Riser and become his plaything.
チェックメイトだ。
Helplessness and anger filled Issei's heart. The Red Dragon Emperor, observing Issei's efforts and anger, draws strength from the wielder's will. The artifact responded once again to Issei's call and reappeared in his mind, and Riser could never have anticipated the kind of monster he was about to face. This man never imagined that the crazed figure before him, clearly a demon, could wield a cross and even splash holy water. The appearance of the true dragon was sure to shake the entire demonic world. After being defeated by Riser, Issei had been unconscious for 2 days. Thinking of Rias crying, Issei's resolve only strengthened. He was determined to take Rias back from Riser. The Red Dragon Emperor, Dodraig, responded to Issei, promising to grant him power whenever he needed it, though it would come at a cost and require a sacrifice. As Issei awoke from his coma, the maid Grafia came to his room and delivered the news that Rias was about to marry Riser. Issei wept bitterly, blaming his own weakness. Grafia saw the discontent in Issei's heart and found him interesting. In her many years, Grafia had seen countless demons, but it was the first time she saw one like Issei, who wore his heart on his face. The next second, Grafia handed Issei a magic circle that could teleport him directly to the wedding venue, a chance given by Rias's brother, the Demon Lord. Grafia then left, and immediately after, Issei summoned the Red Dragon Emperor, Dodraig, to make a deal. Dodraig had said he would grant Issei power proportional to the sacrifice made. However, this power could only be maintained for 10 seconds. Any longer, and Issei's body would not withstand it. The sacrifice Issei made was to offer one of his arms to the Red Dragon Emperor. Meanwhile, Riser was hosting an engagement party with Rias in the demonic world, attended by well-known figures among demons. However, unexpectedly, Issei burst into the party, causing a commotion. Seeing Issei's arrival, his companions quickly created an opportunity for him. At that moment, Rias's brother, Lord Cerzex, the Demon King, also arrived at the scene. Cerzex announced that this was the entertainment he had prepared, commenting that the rating game between Riser and his sister had been quite interesting. However, he found it unconvincing to have his inexperienced sister, who lacked even half the combat strength, as an opponent. Therefore, Cerzex requested Riser, who possessed the power of the Phoenix, to fight again against Issei, who held the power of the dragon. He wanted to witness the battle between the Phoenix and the dragon firsthand. Issei understood that this was his last chance to reclaim Rias. Cerzex also promised Issei that if he won this battle, he would grant him one wish. Issei's only wish was to have Rias return to him. The next second, Issei unleashed the dragon's power without reservation. His body was immediately enveloped by the forbidden dragon armor. From that moment, a 10-second countdown began. The duration of power Dodraig had promised to Issei. His attributes skyrocketed, matching Riser in speed and strength. The two fiercely exchanged punches in the air. Despite the enhancement from the armor, Issei was not yet fully adapted to the power. They clashed again, and this time Issei was struck hard enough to spit blood. However, Riser was not faring much better, as Issei was holding a cross, which inflicted severe damage on him. Even the Phoenix could not withstand the holy power enhanced by the Red Dragon Emperor arm. Since Issei's left hand was offered to Dodraig, it was unaffected by the cross. Even knowing his arm would not return, Issei had no regrets. He was about to deliver the final punch to Riser, but just then, the 10 seconds ended, and the armor disintegrated. Dodraig admitted he was powerless to help further, as this was the limit with Issei's current base abilities. One more second, and Issei's body would have exploded. However, in that instant of deactivation, Dodraig transferred the last bit of energy to the gem on the dragon hand, but this was only temporary. Seeing Issei lose his armor, Riser immediately resumed his arrogant demeanor. Unperturbed, Issei retaliated by dousing Riser's face with the enhanced holy water, causing him to crumble. Without a doubt, Issei won the duel. The Demon King honored his promise. returning Rias to Issei and personally summoning a bird to transport Issei and Rias back to the human world.